Wild animals and people have always lived side by side in the Highlands. Sharing the same landscape and experiencing the same seasons. But over the years, humans have shaped this place, stamping their authority on the landscape. And dominating their wild neighbors. The Highlands may look like 20,000 square miles of pure wilderness. But for millennia, people have left their mark on these mountains and valleys. The natural forest which once covered this landscape was cleared for farmland and felled for timber, while grazing by livestock and deer prevented young trees from growing back. And while some species flourished, others were driven to extinction by habitat loss and overhunting. But now the balance is changing, and people have started to realize just how much we need to put back. Never before have the modern Highlands seen so much work being done to repair the damage of the past. One bird more than any other sums up the changing relationship between people and the Highland landscape. The osprey. This is the Trossachs National Park in the Southern Highlands. Lush forest, rugged mountains and excellent fishing make this some of the best osprey habitat in Scotland. Several breeding pairs have successfully set up home here.
It's a nest just up here.
Conservation manager Dave Anderson and his colleague Simon Smith know every detail of the lives of the ospreys that live here. Today they're visiting a nest as part of a continuing study.
I'll carry everything then, shall I?
Yeah. Come on. Well, I work for the Forestry Commission, and within our land holdings we have a huge range of species, a lot of different birds of prey, and the osprey being one of them. And the general public rely on us to protect the wildlife that's in here.
Simon's an experienced climber, and he needs to be. Is 50 feet to the top. The parent birds are aware of his presence and have already taken to the wing.
Sounds like she's pleased to see us.
To the parent birds, Simon is a potential predator. They call to their chicks to lie flat, camouflaging themselves in the nest.
Osprey's nest typically right in the very crown of the tree, and these birds are cryptically coloured so that any predator, a big eagle flying over the top of them, would look down and they don't actually think that there's anything on the nest.
Dave and Simon visit the nests every year. The chicks are given a thorough checkup and will be weighed, measured and ringed. The process provides invaluable data on the development and movement of the osprey population in these forests.
Osprey is a really great conservation story. They've gone from strength to strength, and now we're probably looking at a population across the UK of nearly 300 pairs. These ospreys, when they leave here, they're going to go back to west coast of Africa or Portugal or Spain to overwinter, and they'll do that for 2 years before returning back to the UK. Hopefully they'll end up back in Scotland. That's where I'd like to see them anyway. But the population around this area is doing really well.
It's an extraordinary comeback story. At the turn of the century, the osprey was virtually extinct as a breeding bird in Scotland, wiped out by egg collectors and hunters. But in the 1950s, after an absence of nearly 40 years, the osprey came back. It all started in a forest near Aviemore, 120 miles north of the Trossachs. In 1954, a pair of Scandinavian birds appeared and bred at Loch Garten, which is now an RSPB reserve. But the nest was repeatedly raided by egg collectors. In response, the RSPB rolled out Operation Osprey, which became its most powerful weapon in the battle to protect these birds. At its heart was a revolutionary concept that's now fundamental to modern conservation: the idea of public engagement. Jennifer Clark is the RSPB Information Officer at Loch Garten.
When they first bred, rather than keeping it a secret, we decided that it would be better to tell the public about this and to invite them to come and see these birds, with the idea that if we told the public about what was happening to them and people came to see the birds, that people would be on the side of the birds and not the side of the egg collectors, and just to change people's opinions and ideas on how we treat nature. And it works. If you speak to any children now about egg collecting, they don't know what it is. Do you want to have a guess? What do you think happened when those first ospreys came back?
The dedication of people like Jennifer is inspiring visitors who come to the reserve.
Do you think they hatched into chicks? It's all about showing people wildlife, nature, showing them their ospreys, educating them about what we do here on the reserve and the wider work that RSPB does. So it's an educational platform and a great way to gain support.
It's this public engagement that has helped to protect the osprey, allowing it to expand its range across the Highlands and beyond.
I love wildlife, I love nature. The story of the ospreys is gripping, the whole history of this place. The brilliant thing about ospreys is they came back on their own. We didn't bring them back, they just turned up. And when they did, we protected what was there. And to say that we've got 300 breeding pairs across the country now is fantastic. And last year, which was the 60th anniversary of ospreys returning to Scotland, we had our 100th chick fledged from the Loch Garten nest. So That's a nice success story in conservation.
The osprey's comeback is an extraordinary tale. And the Highlands are full of stories like this. Stories of survival. And stories of change. Generation after generation of families have lived and worked here. And like the wildlife, people too have learned to endure the seasons. Towering above the town of Aviemore are the high tops of the Cairngorms, a little piece of the Arctic in the Highlands of Scotland. Here, only species adapted to sub-zero conditions can survive. This is the coldest place in Britain, where temperatures can fall as low as -27 degrees. Fiona Smith and her colleague Abigail are trekking up the mountainside in search of a herd of animals perfectly adapted to this life in the freezer. They're reindeer, the only free-ranging herd in Britain.
The Cairngorms is the only habitat in Britain that reindeer can live naturally. Because of its vegetation that grows, because of the climate we get here. It gets the Arctic and subarctic ecosystem, and that is where reindeer thrive. It's where they live, it's where they come from.
The 150-strong herd do get a helping hand and extra food from the Cairngorm Reindeer Centre, owned and run by Fiona's family.
To have such a tame animal in such a wild environment, I think is really special. And they're super friendly and super greedy, and yeah, they're just a delight to be around. I couldn't see myself in a city stuck in an office, that's for sure. I mean, it gets you out and about, which is obviously nice. Working with the reindeer, you know, they're a great animal to work with. And I think it's something about working in their environment with such a tame animal. There's not many opportunities you could do that. So yeah, no, it's pretty special.
Reindeer became extinct in Britain at the end of the last ice age. But then in 1952, a herd was reintroduced from Scandinavia. Since then, these iconic animals have been thriving. In the late 1980s, Fiona's parents, Tilly and Alan, bought the herd and took on its management.
When I came up to work with the reindeer, I felt I had found my place. I had a passion for deer, which I got from my own father. I did a degree in zoology, and I knew about the reindeer in Scotland, so I came to work here as a volunteer in 1981. The reindeer were endearing, the mountains were fantastic, and the keeper wasn't bad looking, so we got married. I I think they are certainly in harmony with the environment. They're living and browsing on the natural vegetation that is growing here. But we have a role as well here. We have to be sensible about the numbers of reindeer that we actually have on the ground. And so we do control the breeding. We do make sure we keep our numbers that are sustainable to the environment they're living in.
Businesses like Tilly and Fiona's depend on tourism. Nature-based tourism brings £1.4 billion a year to the Scottish economy.
We are a tourist attraction because you need an income for anything, and the tourism brings that income to the herd. We run an adoption scheme, so people adopt the reindeer. It becomes quite a sort of close-knit community of people that are just reindeer enthusiasts.
Without a doubt, I belong here in the Highlands because of the reindeer. For me, they provide me with all my joy. They are just lovely animals to be amongst. They come and they go. The next descendants come through and become those characters. And knowing an animal personally in such a beautiful wild environment is an honour, I would say.
"4,000 feet below the reindeer's icy world, the Great Caledonian pine forest is cloaked in the first snowfall of the year. Although winter can be tough on wildlife, the season can be the most beautiful of the Highland year. For photographer Neil McIntyre, it's the perfect opportunity to capture the ways in which wildlife copes with the extreme conditions.
Photographing in the Highlands is a big part of me, you know. It's my way of communicating with the things I see and with other people, you know. It really all revolves around the picture taking. You take a picture, don't take what you see, take what you feel. And I think if you put that principle in, it does tell in the pictures. You know, it's not just about one little still image, it goes far beyond that. And it gives you a connection to wildlife, there's no doubt about that. For me it does anyway.
Neil has lived on the edge of the Cairngorms National Park all his life.
My father was a gamekeeper, and he got a job up in the Highlands here, and moved here when I was just a young boy. That was how I really got into it. I'm not somebody that can sadly write particularly well for, you know, telling stories and things like that. So I seen photography as a means for me to communicate to other people what I was seeing and how special some of these things were.
As well as being a successful wildlife photographer, Neil shares his passion for this corner of the Highlands with visitors who come here on photographic safaris.
Highlands has always been a bit of a mecca for a lot of outdoor people. You know, traditionally it's been the hunting, shooting, fishing people that have come to the Highlands to do these very things, and that will continue. But without a shadow of doubt, over the last decade probably, there's been quite a considerable increase in the amount of people wanting to do similar things, but shoot it with a camera instead of obviously shooting it with a rifle or a gun. So there's no reason both these things can't work together.
You get nice soft backlighting here in the morning, you know, because it sort of filters through the trees. It's not too harsh, it's quite nice.
I like to focus on individual species and spend as much time I can with them, particularly things like the red squirrels and crested tits, for example, are the two ones I probably spend the most time with. The thing about a photograph, you're capturing a moment in time, and then you can do that, and then the animal or bird just goes about its daily business again, and it's as if you've never been there. With one word, it's magic. It's a magic place. It has an aura about it that very few places have. It's got the wildlife, it's got the mountains, the lochs, the glens, and the light you get is second to none. There's hardly a day, certainly when I'm outside, that you don't look around you and think, I'm a very lucky fella.
The Caledonian pine forest, at the heart of the national park, is Scotland's most iconic woodland wilderness. "6,000 years ago, these forests covered nearly 6,000 square miles and formed a vast band of northern forest that stretched across 3 continents. The Romans called it the Great Wood of Caledon. Rich in Scots pine, birch, oak and rowan trees, this forest was a special place for wildlife. But over the last 2,000 years, these woods were decimated. Today, perhaps just 1% of the ancient forest remains. Dr. David Hetherington is a national park ecologist and has a special interest in the restoration of these woodlands.
At around 4,500 square kilometres, the Cairngorms National Park is one of the largest national parks in the whole of Europe. We have some really special fragments, remnants left of Caledonian forests, which are really quite distinctive of this part of Scotland. But it's important to say that this is not some uninhabited wilderness. The Cairngorms National Park is home to 18,000 people who live here and who work here.
A familiar cast of characters can still be found in these ancient woodlands. But deep in the undergrowth lives an equally important set of animals, the keystone species of this forest microworld. Hayley Wiswell is an ecologist for the Cairngorms National Park Authority.
And they're all very, very dark.
She introduces groups of naturalists, rangers and foresters to the miniature world of the forest floor.
Invertebrates are absolutely vital for the health of a forest because of the variety of roles that they play, whether they're food for the small birds or mammals, or whether they're decomposing dead wood, breaking it down and turning it into nutrients that the forest can use. So they're extraordinarily important.
This enormous nest is home to Hayley's favourite species, the Scottish wood ant. These bustling ant cities can be 6 feet wide. Their presence indicates a healthy forest.
The wood ants themselves are kind of a keystone species, if you like. Not only are they nurturing aphid colonies in the trees, which reduce the capacity of the tree to grow leaves, but they also do other things like they disperse seeds. So some plants in the pine forest produce seeds that are only dispersed by ants. And then the wood ant colony itself, the actual nest, is home to species of invertebrates that are only found in wood ant nests and not found anywhere else. They're helping the trees to grow, they're helping plants to grow, they're supporting all these other organisms. I think the forest would be a different place without them. You might have dozens of nests in a hectare forest. So that's millions and millions of ants running around. So in terms of sheer biomass, they're definitely the apex predator of the Caledonian pine forests.
Centuries ago, apex predators of a very different kind roamed these forests. The ancient people here shared their woodland home with lynx, bears, and wolves. Eventually, we hunted these animals to extinction. But one predator has managed to hang on. The Scottish wildcat. What it lacks in size, it makes up for in ferocity. Nicknamed the Highland tiger, this cat is even more endangered than its striped Asian cousin.
This is not a domestic cat that has gone wild. This is a truly wild animal that moved in here shortly after the glaciers left Britain. Unfortunately, it really is in trouble. Its range has contracted massively from once having covered the whole of Britain to just parts of the Scottish Highlands. But the real problem that the wildcat faces is because it's quite closely related genetically to the domestic cat, it can actually interbreed and produce fertile hybrids. And this is a real problem because with each passing generation, the wildcat is becoming more and more diluted and less distinctive of that native animal that we've had for so long in Scotland.
A coordinated conservation effort has set up Scottish Wildcat Action. It's the first national effort to protect the cats in the wild and has established a conservation breeding programme. Douglas Richardson is head of living collections at the Highland Wildlife Park.
I firmly believe that a healthy captive population of Scottish wildcats in high quality environments will be crucial to the survival of the species. At the very least, that safety net role that they play. Someone alluded to captive breeding programs are like lifeboats on an ocean liner. You hope you never have to use one, but it's nice to know that they're there.
Captive bred wildcats, like 11-year-old Hamish, are being exchanged between parks to mate with genetically strong females to secure the future bloodline. Today, Hamish is being loaned to the Agas Field Centre near Inverness in the hope that he'll breed with one of their female wildcats.
Hello, what's all this? What's this? He's quite a character. He's not at all dangerous. Though saying that, I wouldn't want him to land on the top of my head. He's very good with females and he's excellent with his offspring. I've actually seen him carrying and cleaning his kittens on occasion.
If Hamish and his female companions are successful, their descendants may eventually be released back into the Highlands, but only into protected areas.
I want to get that captive program to a level that if it all goes belly up as far as the wild population is concerned, we still have that cushion.
It's not just about captive breeding in some of these facilities, it's about education and raising awareness, making people aware that we have this fantastic animal living in the wild here in Scotland and it does need our help.
If animals like the wildcat are to successfully re-establish themselves in the Highlands, it's critical there's enough habitat for them to live in. Their original home in the Caledonian forest is only just recovering from centuries of exploitation and neglect.
It's really in the last few decades we've begun to realise that these old forest remnants that, are a link back to the end of the Ice Age need our help, and that there's been some fantastic work done to try and expand those forests and save them from any further damage. And here in the Cairngorms National Park we see a whole variety of different projects where the native woodland is coming back and really quite spectacularly. Old fragments are beginning to join up with one another. The woodlands are gradually moving up the hill through natural regeneration. So a fantastic area for the kind of landscape scale forest restoration.
On the edge of Abernethy Forest, Desmond Dugan is helping the forest regenerate naturally, using sensitive and low-impact methods of replanting.
In recent years, the pine forest has been receding down the hill because of man's management. Man has converted some of the woodlands here to heather moorland, perhaps for grouse shooting or for sheep ranching. So the forest has been lost, and we here at RSPB Abernethy are trying to encourage the sort of recolonisation of the forest. And we're trying to do that mostly by natural processes.
To further assist the growth and diversity of the forest, Desmond and his colleague Alison Greggins are sowing the seeds of native species like the alder.
This was all collected last autumn. It's been in the cold store between 2 and 4 degrees to keep it cool, to stop it germinating. We're now sowing some of the seed into the river, directly into the river here in this little stream here, and we're also scuffing some of the seed into the riverside gravels because alder is water distributed. The seed falls into the river, it's washed downstream and it gets lodged in little nooks and crannies downstream. Getting more forest is not just about creating a habitat for wildlife. We want to create a managed environment here so that people can come and enjoy, whether you enjoy just a quiet day's bird watching or visiting the Osprey Centre or perhaps botanising or doing whatever you enjoy in the natural landscape. It's very satisfying to walk through the forest because some of the trees are as old as 400 years old. And you can put your hand on the tree and make a wish for the future for your family or whatever. It's really quite a humbling experience. To feel the past, to walk through the forest is to feel the past.
Thanks to people like Desmond, the forest has a chance to flourish again. It's because of this kind of habitat restoration that real progress is being made in reintroducing endangered species.
We have a whole range of species now that we just didn't have 100 years ago. We'd lost them, they'd become extinct. Red squirrels were found in only 1 or 2 pockets of woodland here in the Cairngorms, and in other parts of the Highlands had to be reintroduced from elsewhere. The capercaillie had actually gone extinct in Scotland and was reintroduced by private estates in the 19th century. We've seen the reintroduction of other birds of prey such as the red kite. So there's some real conservation successes, and I'm sure many of these will continue in the future.
Red kites are a soaring symbol of hope in the Highlands. Once persecuted to extinction here, the birds were reintroduced from Europe in the 1990s, after an absence of nearly 120 years. Dave Anderson is monitoring this new breeding population in the Trossachs.
The birds that we're monitoring here in central Scotland were put back in '96, and the population now is between 75 and 80 pairs.
Close to the nesting sites, Argati Farm's feeding station provides extra benefits for red kites and people.
Red kites need as much help as they can when they're first introduced to an area, and I think that these feeding stations offer not only a little bit of support, particularly in the winter time for red kites, but it also gives people an opportunity to bond with these birds that have been introduced into their area.
The Argati lunchtime acrobatics are guaranteed to impress. These spectacular birds of prey turn up in big numbers for the free handouts. Other birds of prey, like buzzards, are no match for this kind of aerial bombardment.
The kites swoop in, grab the food and fly away with it. They're not really wanting to be standing, walking about, because they do get mobbed, not just by the crows and by the buzzards, but by their own kind, because they're always stealing off each other. Wildlife is coming there to obviously get a free meal, and people can go there and enjoy it. And it's quite a spectacle in the winter time when you have 50, 60, 70 red kites wheeling over the tops of people. These are people who don't get the opportunities that people like myself get to go into nests. And I think it's really important that they get that opportunity. Otherwise, why would they even bother thinking about protecting them? Rewilding is one of these words that some people might not like, but we've sanitised quite a lot of the Highlands, and I think it's really important to get back to rewilding the land, and that might mean putting mammals back in here that have been missing for a long time, and birds. And the red kite was missing for a long, long time, and it's great to see it back.
But there are some people whose plans for rewilding are much more radical. "70 miles north of the Cairngorms, philanthropist Paul Lister has begun a rewilding project, restoring lost plant and animal species at his Allerdale Wilderness Reserve.
Well, we've been used to hundreds of years of a sterile landscape, like a dead zone, for, since the last 1,000 years, since the Norman conquest. We've been, sort of sanitizing our landscape. And so it's very difficult for people to understand, where we're at. Visitors, tourists come to Scotland and see these wonderful hills, open hills, treeless hills, and they think that's normal. Over the centuries, we've slowly taken it all apart, and until now we're just left with fragments of old forest. In fact, there's only 1% left. That's not much of a legacy, is it, to leave behind?
Paul wants to bring large carnivores back to Scotland. He and others believe that nature needs top predators like wolves and bears to help balance out the ecosystem. This will give vegetation a chance to recover from overgrazing by deer, benefiting all wildlife. He also believes these animals will benefit the people of the Highlands through ecotourism.
I think that there's a bigger picture that we're missing here to be able to bring back wolves and bears and create more revenue, more job opportunities, and really see the place come alive. And that's really what I hope for. I mean, look at the fantastic woods behind us here. Hundreds of years ago, there would have been wolves and bears in here. And it's just a shame that, to me, they're as magnificent as they look. It's kind of like a dead zone.
We've got to move forward, we've got to see some change, and we've got to progress. Life is not about the past, it's about the future. And we need to build a new future, a new consciousness, a new way of treating the landscape.
Biologically, you know, lynx and wolves and bears and some of these other large mammal species could easily live in Scotland. You know, the biological conditions are there. You know, the biological conditions will probably improve with time as we get more woodland cover, etc. So yes, I mean, these large mammals could definitely live here, but of course the crucial factor is not the biology, it's the human environment. Are humans prepared to live alongside animals, which, undoubtedly beautiful and charismatic as they are, and undoubtedly could be part of a wildlife tourism initiative, but they will have impacts on, sometimes they will create problems. Are we prepared to live alongside them? And it's only really the people of Scotland who can make that decision.
"40 miles northwest of Allerdale, the Highlands meet the Atlantic. Here lie many of the great seabird colonies that have made the Highlands world famous. Tens of thousands of pairs of birds come here every spring and summer to breed, jostling for space to raise a family along the dizzying ledges and cliff tops. Paul Walton is head of Habitats and Species for the RSPB, and these vibrant communities are his special passion.
People can come to Scotland, they can come to the Highlands, they can visit these incredible seabird colonies, and it is, to my mind, every bit as spectacular as a visit to the Serengeti in Africa. It really is one of the world's greatest wildlife spectacles.
Of all the birds that inhabit these extraordinary seabird cities, the guillemot is Paul's favourite. Over 30,000 of these birds annually crowd the cliff ledges to breed. One of the largest concentrations of guillemots in Europe. It's hard to imagine a more precarious place to raise a family. Seabirds are important indicators of change in the health of this marine world. But despite their apparent abundance here, numbers are in decline. The cause seems to link directly to climate change.
Seabirds are actually the end of a marine food chain. And it seems to be that in recent decades, that food chain has been undergoing some really quite profound changes. Warm water plankton species, which aren't as rich in nutrients, are taking over from the Arctic plankton species, which were traditionally the food of the sand eels and other fish which the seabirds eat. And also we're seeing an overall reduction in the abundance of that plankton that the fish eat. And this seems to be having knock-on effects up the food chain. We look out there at the ocean, And people tend to think, you know, that's genuinely a wilderness, that's wild out there, it's the last frontier. But there is absolutely no doubt that human activity is having a profound effect on the marine environment and on the wildlife that depends on it. So they're facing multiple pressures, and those pressures are really beginning to show now and have effects on our seabird populations and driving them into decline. And this is a global issue.
But while climate change remains an international problem, there are local success stories for colonies like these in Scotland.
One area that proves that people can really make a difference is in the idea of marine protected areas. Now, we have protected areas on land, and we have done for decades. The marine environment, it's been much slower, but we're making real progress now. It remains to be seen how well they'll be managed. That's a challenge for us all. But it was public pressure that brought about this critical change, and it is real progress.
Scotland has 30 marine protected areas, supporting an abundance of wildlife. With over 20 different whale and dolphin species, the Highland coastline provides a rich habitat for cetaceans. "90 miles east of the seabird colonies lies a great funnel-shaped estuary called the Murray Firth. WDC, Whale and Dolphin Conservation, are based here and run a program called Shore Watch. They work with 23 coastal communities, aiming to engage them in protecting the marine environment. Katie Dyke is their conservation officer.
We work with local communities, and we encourage them and engage with volunteers to look for whales and dolphins for us.
As you're scanning, you're just looking for splashes, feeding birds, any like break in the water, any discommunity in the water that you might think, oh, there's something there.
Yeah. We analyse all this data so that we can better understand the movements of whales and dolphins around the Scottish coastline, and then we can use that to advise governments and developers on how to protect the cetaceans that we have around Scotland. Scotland actually has a really rich marine wildlife, a huge abundance of different marine mammals. And that probably doesn't spring to mind to a lot of people, because I think when people look at whales and dolphins, they see tropical climates and warm waters, and they think that's where they're going to see whales and dolphins, where actually Scotland is one of the best places to see whales and dolphins, particularly from the shoreline.
These coastal waters are regularly visited by a resident population of almost 200 bottlenose dolphins.
We've actually got the world's biggest bottlenose dolphin. They're the most northern bottlenose dolphin of the world, and basically they're the biggest. So they're 4 meters long. They're absolutely huge. They're kind of relatives across the world. So you've got bottlenose dolphin in California and Australia, and they're only about 2 meters long. So our bottlenose dolphin are double the size. Basically, they're kind of the fattest in the world, I think. You know, they've got a lot of food around here. They've got a lot of fatty fish to eat. They've got salmon, and they basically have to stay nice and warm in this weather, so they've got an extra layer of blubber.
This is a very special group of bottlenose dolphins, the only surviving population in the North Sea. They live on the very edge, isolated and vulnerable. And they share their home with people, living alongside oil rigs, boats, and busy harbours. It's a world that's become noisier and more polluted over the last century. But they're holding on. And each year they provide thousands of visitors with an unforgettable wildlife watching experience. No one knows the Murray Firth dolphins better than Charlie Phillips. Like Katie, he's a field officer for WDC. Charlie is cataloguing the unique markings on each animal's dorsal fin.
It means that we can keep tabs on what the population's doing just through the power of photography. We don't need to try and stick transmitters or markers on individual dolphins because they already have individual markings on their dorsal fins caused naturally by themselves.
Charlie's got to know the pod so well, he's given names to many of the individual dolphins.
When you're involved in studying them for any length of time, you not only begin to recognize them as individuals, but recognize them as individual characters too. They're amazing. I've spent 20 years watching and studying them and photographing them and filming them, and every day is different. There's no 2 days the same.
Charlie's favourite spot is Chanonry Point, a shingle spit sticking straight out into the Murray Firth. When the Atlantic salmon begin their spawning runs, the dolphins gather here on a rising tide. If you time it right, you can enjoy one of Scotland's most extraordinary wildlife spectacles.
The bottlenose dolphins have figured out a method of hunting where if they wait for an incoming tide, as the tide rushes past the tip of this peninsula, it creates tremendous whirlpools and eddies, and the migratory salmon that are coming through this area seem to congregate in one narrow spot, and the dolphins basically wait on this tidal current, almost like a supermarket conveyor belt, bringing the food towards them. Every now and again, a dolphin will take a fish that it's not quite comfortable swallowing. So what it's got to do is it's got to physically regurgitate it and then re-swallow it. It can sometimes take a dolphin 45 minutes, 50 minutes to swallow a really large fish. But it's worth it because that huge packet of protein and nutrition, it's worth spending the time putting that down your stomach because you don't know where you're going to get the next one from.
People won't protect what they don't understand, and they won't watch what they don't know is there. And it's a really unique opportunity that people have that live around this local area, that there's dolphins on your doorstep and you can go outside and stand on the shoreline and watch these remarkable creatures.
The people of the Highlands are rediscovering their connection to wildlife,
And I think feeding underneath them.
proving that public engagement and positive action can, and does, make a real difference.
If we can grab children's attention now and get them excited about nature now, then hopefully that'll stay with them. And it'll stay with them into adulthood, and they are the people who are going to be looking after this in 20, 30 years' time, so we really want to grab their attention now.
We see the Highlands as a bit of a unique area within the whole of the UK. It's seen as a wild place, and it is still a wild place, and I really like being a part of it. And I'm not sick of it yet, and I hope I never will be.
The Highlands, for me, it's home. It's where my ancestors come from. It's a beautiful part of the world. It's got some fantastic nature, but for me as an ecologist, I feel there's a job to be done. You know, we've got to repair some of the damage to make this an even better place for future generations to live.
The Highlands to me means freedom. It means getting out there in a clean place that's still got areas where you won't see another living soul from morning to night. But there's also pristine environments that we can enjoy too. If we do it carefully, then hopefully those pristine environments will still be pristine in years to come. It's a place that I'd never ever want to leave.
The Highlands have inspired people for generations. But keeping them wild and diverse is our responsibility. Rebuilding a strong natural environment will benefit everyone. If we can learn to respect and take responsibility for this place, then the Highlands have every chance of staying wild and wonderful for people and for animals.